So I'm Steve Schommer with Adrenaline Homes, and I'm happy to be hosting Amy and Angie from Wisconsin Housing Alliance to have a conversation about manufactured housing.
Hi, I'm Amy Bliss. I am the Executive Director of Wisconsin Housing Alliance, which is a trade association that represents the entire factory built housing industry here in Wisconsin.
I'm Angie Diedrich, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the Wisconsin Housing Alliance and work with her.
All right. Well, thank you for coming to help us celebrate our grand opening here. We're brand new to the industry. And for someone who's been around the industry for a long time, do you have any advice for us?
I do. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm so impressed. You really are taking technology to a new level. You're in a great location where housing is so desperately needed. And so yeah, just don't give up, keep persevering and showing people the product, and you're doing everything right so far.
Would you say Wisconsin in the manufactured housing world similar to the rest of the other states in the country, or what's different about Wisconsin?
It is the same across the nation. We need millions of units of housing. And Wisconsin, I think we need about 40,000 units of housing in the next 4 or 5 years. And we have to be part of that solution as far as the factory built housing industry, because site builders don't have enough capacity to do it all. So municipalities and counties and all the people who make housing decisions have got to start opening up to the reality that this is the wave of the future, that factory built housing, whether it be manufactured, modular, ADUs, the opportunity is with our industry right now.
Right. In that crisis, if you call it the shortage of housing, um, we're in it, right? So sometimes I wonder if it's a secret to the rest of the world, so to speak, because I know between you and I, we pretty much invited every local village administrator from the area, the mayors, the aldermen, alderwomen from anywhere close by, state representatives, even the representatives of Washington, and so far we've only had one person from Senator Ron Johnson's office stop by, and and I'm kind of just curious, why do you think it's like that? Why is it so hard for the government departments, agencies, what have you, to really kind of acknowledge that this is a crisis and we might be part of the solution?
Well, for one thing, right now, I think it's timing. At the state legislative level, the assembly reps and the senators have been working like dogs through the night to get the budget crafted.
Sure.
And so they kind of shut down for a few weeks before they get back into their legislative duties.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't feel like that's a snub on you. They really aren't even taking phone calls right now
Sure.
because they've just had this exhaustive budget process over the last 6 months.
Sure.
And so they're kind of taking their victory laps and and a vacation.
Sure.
So
Well,
I do think
sure.
that's part of it. I would have loved to see some local building inspectors here and zoning officials. And that's really, I think, where we need to focus. I don't know, Angie, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say too, sometimes you're excited, you get going, and you want government to jump in. But sometimes they circle back like 2 years later and they'll be like, hey, about that you came in to talk to us about. We want to talk to you about that more. So I think it's just we want to go at a faster pace than government's going.
Sure.
So which is part of the problem. But also just trying to get them out and see the product, see the building process
Mhm.
at factories and stuff, and tour a home and get to understand, what product we're building today, what kind of homes we're building.
Sure. Yep.
So
I did actually see one village administrator sneak in under the radar. He didn't want to talk too much, but he did show up, which you got to give him credit for that.
Absolutely.
But it's also, we've in our short time have already beat our head against the wall a little bit with some of those discussions. Any suggestions on what's worked for either of you, or what you've seen other retailers be successful doing with working with the local zoning and planning departments to have them open their mind a little bit more, have them be more accepting?
Yeah. I can tell a little story here
Sure,
probably.
of
And
course.
so there was a disabled veteran that had a beautiful piece of property up in Outagamie County. I won't mention the municipality. And he had a manufactured home on the property, and an agency came in and did some insulation and stuff for him. And they didn't know anything about manufactured housing, and it ruined his house. It literally made the roof cave in because of what they did to it. And because it was a story with a high profile, you know, veteran, um, well loved in the community, everybody came together. Not only the state representative, but the state senator, the news media got involved. And so a group of agencies got together, and we wanted to replace his house for him. We had installers lined up. We had someone who would, sell the home at a very reasonable cost. And the municipality said no. Once your old home is down, it was a non-conforming use because zoning had changed, and we won't let you rebuild that house. So as it turned out, other agencies stepped in and they did site built him a home, which was really a sad story. But the legislators that were involved were so shocked that the municipality would not let him replace an old home with a brand spanking new home that looked so much better, just because they had this artificial line in the sand. And so some of those legislators still talk to me today about how unfair that was. And so when people can hear a story of what's been denied to someone, they're denied a house because they can only afford X, and we want, 2,000 square feet houses, and we want three-car garages in this subdivision. I think those are the stories that have to get told to put a real face with the situation. That's been my experience.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we part of why we're doing, our podcast studio and this sort of thing, I think is we feel like there is so much a need to get stories out. So we're hoping this is just the very beginning for us to help build some of those success stories and help others, not just us, to take those stories and do what they need to do on their local level as well
Yeah.
too.
And the success stories are the ones that really need to get out there, because there's a lot of municipal officials and stuff who think you want to put a single section in a neighborhood with $800,000 homes.
Right.
And that's not at all what we advocate for. We advocate for, just giving an opportunity for someone to be able to buy a house, and they can still have those requirements of, you need a certain roof pitch, or, some, this a square foot lot or something like that, vinyl siding, which all of our homes come with, so it's they just have a old idea, stereotype idea in their head that it's going to be a rundown tin can in a neighborhood, which
Sure.
is not true. So getting those officials out to see that, we had taken some people from Washington County up to Cavco Dorchester to see the product, and we had talked to them several times about, hey, they're built with the same materials as a site built home, 2x6 walls, same insulation, same shingles, all that. It wasn't until they actually saw it that, like, one of them, she was like, oh my gosh, that's like insulation like in my house. And we're like, yes, yes, and that's shingles just like in my house. Oh my gosh, these cabinets are so nice, and it's
Right.
like, yeah. So it's like it's seeing is believing. That's the old saying, and it's very true for those people. And it's just the challenge of getting them there is
Right.
going to be the hard part.
Yep. I totally agree. It seems, a lot of what we see around here is, the big money developers coming in, whether it's high density, high rent apartment complexes, or even the neighborhood developments with $800,000, $1 million houses. definitely no shortage of money there. Have you seen any investors being that interested in manufactured housing communities, whatever type they might be, or those developments?
There are a lot of developers that are interested in Wisconsin. And I think what we need to get better at is doing our own developments, utilizing manufactured housing as an ownership model. Manufactured home communities definitely have their place. And there is one new one that's being built in Eau Claire that has like 5 homes in it already. And there's another one that's really exciting. It's a nonprofit. It's called Dementia Innovations. Um, and it's for people with dementia so that they can live as usual. They call it Live as Sue. It's never been done in the United States. It's only been done in Europe. And we're really excited about that. They plan on putting in 124 homes, and each home is going to be in a cul-de-sac of about 10 homes with a caregiver that can help with all 10 families. They're going to put in a barber shop. They're going to put in a little grocery store. They're going to put in a little movie theater and community center. And so I'm really excited. They're going to break ground. Well, they broke ground already, but I think they're going to get their first houses in the fall. And then there's another subdivision development going in Broadhead, Wisconsin. And that's going to be workforce housing. They're going to be very, very nice multi-section homes on concrete slabs. The water table is kind of high, so they can't have basements. And I think they plan on doing about 54 homes, and that's really exciting as well. And then do you want to tell them about the Hillsborough project?
Yeah, then in Hillsborough, Wisconsin, which is in Vernon County on the west side of the state, Habitat for Humanity they're doing 10 cross mod homes. So cross mod is technically a HUD code manufactured home. It just has a little bit different site built features. And then also, like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have a program for it where they have to be assessed with the regular any other site built home in the neighborhood. But they're going to have an open house on July 30th to showcase that. The community was really excited about this project because for Habitat, they can buy as a retailer. So for them, the cost of the home is a lot lower. And then they're able to have all this workforce housing and get people approved. And they have a lot of grants to help people with down payment assistance and stuff. So the community was really excited. It was, or the community officials, they just had to convince some people in the community who had crazy ideas of what would happen to their community if a manufactured home came in. And it was kind of strange to hear some of the ideas, but they got pretty much everybody's mind changed now with seeing the homes being built. They're beautiful, they're gorgeous. They actually are on the side of a hill and have amazing views. So yeah,
That's very
it's
exciting.
going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it is exciting that there's a lot of people now starting to take a look at us as real housing.
Right.
I don't know the old stereotypes, what they thought, but the good news is too is that the younger generation does not have that stereotype. And that's why I'm so excited with your innovative sales process here, because people who are in their 20s and 30s, they grew up thinking about VR goggles and virtual everything.
Right.
They don't have that fear of, oh, I need to see it, I need to touch it. And stick builders don't necessarily have model homes.
Right.
So
Exactly.
what's the difference? So I'm really excited about what you're doing here.
Yeah. Fantastic. And I know we had a couple come in earlier today, and I think the young lady was more blown away by what she was able to see and hear here, which was exciting. But I think it was a service a little bit to us that they had already gone to see a bunch of, we'll call it 80-year-old homes, with all of the issues you get with the older home, and it was really a positive to see, how they were reacting with like, wow, you can get it for this price, and it's this, and it's brand new that, and that was everyone's a story, right? Everybody that comes through the door, but it was fun to see their reaction, and be part of that process too. So
Yeah, and I think, my generation, we grew up, housing was such an asset, and you had to get into a house, and interest rates were low, and some of the newer generation, like 30-year-olds, they've had to fight tooth and nail to pay off their student loans and to even get a house. They're competing with people who are cash buyers that eliminate inspections and stuff like that. So the younger generation doesn't look at it as this huge investment opportunity like our generation did. They want to buy a house that they can afford to live in, that they're not tied to, because they also want a big truck and a boat, and they want to travel.
yeah,
And
right,
so even if they could afford an $800,000 house, they don't want to live for that house. They want a reasonable, beautiful house to live in and still be able to do all those other things. In
right,
manufactured and modular housing, we are the solution to being able to have both.
right. Yeah, good point.
Mhm.
As we were getting into learning more about this industry, again, being so new to it, of course, I drove through mobile home communities and was just looking around, checking out how things were and all that. And then we started calling some of them, right? Just I wanted to introduce myself as a new business to the area and wanted to understand how they filled their lots. If they had a vacant lot, how did they buy a house, that sort of thing. And one of the conversations I had was, I was a little surprised. It was not a traditional mobile home community. It was a collective, so to speak, or a cooperative,
Yep.
where each owner of the house also owned the land, right? And so they weren't paying lot rent. How common is that?
It's becoming more common. We have an entity just over the border in Minnesota called North Country Cooperative Foundation, and they have done a lot in getting manufactured home communities that are going to sell, like if the owners are elderly or whatever, to sell them as a cooperative. So they actually own a share in the cooperative, and it's unique concept, and I think it's pretty difficult to understand sometimes, and it's not for every manufactured home community. It works in some and not in others.
Sure.
Um, so we haven't seen the explosion of it in Wisconsin like we have in Minnesota. But we do have some community land trust organizations that are very interested in manufactured housing. And that's another different concept. You own the home, you own the land, but you can only sell it for like your selling price, if you ever decide to sell it, has to still be within a certain range of area median income buyers.
Okay.
So it's meant to be kept affordable long term. So there's a bunch of different uh, sort of nonprofit models that are finding a way to make it work, and mostly because land is so expensive.
Right.
So, that's really where appreciation happens tremendously in any type of housing. It's all location, location,
Right.
location.
Of
It
course.
depends on the land. So, people are getting creative.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you very much for attending and helping us celebrate, but then also a special treat to have us sit down and have this conversation. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank
Yeah, we're
you.
very
Thanks for
excited
having
to come.
us.
Yeah, thank you.